The Fair Media Council was established in 1979 as the Long Island Coalition for Fair Broadcasting. The group's original goal was to encourage more Long Island news coverage by New York City-based TV stations. Jaci Clement is the executive director of the organization. She says the goals of the Fair Media Council have expanded to include educational components like teaching media literacy.
When I came along, which was 22 years later after the founding of the organization, it was, what do we do with the organization to make it relevant for today? Unless you really focus on journalism or media in school, you're not taught anything about journalism or media. You're not taught how to become an educated news consumer and how to critique the news and how to understand that just because I read a story in one place doesn't mean that story is the same everywhere else. And it doesn't mean all of the information is contained in that one story. There's a way to use news and media so that you actually build deductive reasoning skills and critical thinking skills, especially in children. So that's really become our focus over the years now. But we do also maintain the original mandate, which is to advocate for quality local news, simply because the public has a right to know. So we want to see the media covering serious issues, things like where your tax dollars are going, how are your politicians performing? Is there something happening in your community, whether it's at the schools or the playgrounds where your kids are playing, that you need to know to make sure your community is safe and vibrant and competing with, the rest of the region so that we maintain a high quality of life here. So that's pretty much what we're focused on now.
They also teach local organizations and businesses how to be more media savvy.
Basically, news coverage focuses on news that impacts the most amount of people. On Long Island, we have less people than New York City does, which explains why the bulk of their news focuses on New York. So for Long Island to be able to get its stories out, they really need to be savvy in terms of how do I position this story? How do I broaden the appeal of it so that it's not just of interest to people on Long Island, but all of New York can see, the relevance of the story. What we deal with are areas where the media doesn't provide as much coverage because we're competing with somewhere else in the region, or there's simply not enough media based in that area to sustain what the public needs to know because there's simply too many stories going on. There's more happening than is being covered. So those are the areas where it's vitally important to educate people how to become part of the news ecology to get their message out, because it's information that's important for the community.
Check out part 2 of this series, which will focus on how to create a healthy news diet. Collora reporting.